It was a dark, cold night, like any other in this place, if hell even has nights or days. I was driving down an endless road, accompanied only by the sound of the engine and the whisper of the wind. Loud music blasted in my head as I wondered if I'd ever reach the end of this journey. My thoughts drifted to memories of my past life, the thrill of gripping the steering wheel, the haze of alcohol clouding my judgment, and that fleeting sense of freedom that only comes when you're on the edge of destruction. In this place, I've learned to make peace with my solitude and my madness. I've found a strange calm in accepting that I'll never escape. Each day is a cyclical repeat of mistakes, victories, and glorious moments. Eternity is something you can only understand once you're trapped in it. I no longer fear the unknown. I've seen my loved ones arrive here, feeling the odd comfort of knowing we're all in the same boat, drifting through the purgatory like wandering souls with no destination. But recently, I crossed paths with someone new. It seemed like just another night. I was speeding down the road, lost in thought, when I spotted a figure in the distance. I stopped the car, something I rarely do. I don't usually pull over for anyone. But this person felt different. He wasn't like the others I've encountered here. His eyes weren't lost in that empty stare of those who have already accepted their fate. He was a man with a kind face, the kind that seems to have an inner light. He looked at me as if he had known me all his life and smiled. I couldn't understand what someone like him was doing here. His energy, his aura, radiated goodness. It was as if he didn't belong in this place, as if he had been ripped from heaven and thrown into this dark, endless pit. "What are you doing here?" I asked, still in disbelief. "The same as you," he replied calmly. "Living, or whatever this is." I invited him into the car, and we continued our aimless journey. He told me about his life, or at least what he remembered of it. He had been a good man, a noble-hearted person who lived to help others. He was the type who sacrificed his own comfort for the sake of others' well-being. Listening to his story made me think. He wasn't the first person I'd met like this. What is someone like him doing in hell? The question echoed in my mind. As we drove, we talked about many things: life, death, the meaning of this eternal existence. I asked if he ever felt something was wrong, that maybe this place wasn't where he was supposed to be. He looked at me, with a sad smile. "Maybe heaven got overcrowded," he said, with a calmness I wouldn't expect from anyone here. "Maybe the system broke, or perhaps the criteria changed. Sometimes I think hell isn't a punishment but a refuge for those who didn't fit into the perfect paradise." He wasn't the first kind soul I'd met. Centuries ago, I came across a woman whose pure kindness made me question my own existence here. And now, with this man beside me, the idea of an overfilled heaven made more and more sense. Perhaps heaven no longer has room for those who, despite being good, don't fit the perfect mold expected. We kept talking for hours. He shared stories of broken dreams, of people he helped, and those he couldn't save. I felt small beside him, like a spectator to a story of sacrifice and love. As he spoke, the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, as if time itself was bending to allow us this conversation. "What do you think happens next?" I asked. "When we figure all this out, when we discover the truth of this place, what awaits us?" "I don't know," he replied honestly. "But I like to believe there's something more beyond this, that this is just an intermediate step. Maybe the real hell is forgetting who we are, forgetting why we ended up here." We fell into a long silence. Sometimes words aren't needed, mutual understanding fills the space instead. It didn't matter who we were in life or how we ended up here. We were souls sharing a moment of clarity in the midst of darkness. Eventually, I stopped at an old abandoned gas station. I didn't need gas, but I wanted a break. We got out of the car, and as we stared at the starry sky, ironically, clearer here than on Earth, I realized this man was different, special. Maybe, as he said, heaven had run out of space. We said our goodbyes without many words because we both knew we would meet again. In this place, sooner or later, all paths cross. I watched him walk down the dusty road, and a strange sense of peace washed over me. I didn't understand how someone like him ended up here, but his presence made me reflect on this world and its rules. Maybe hell isn't what we think. Maybe it's not a place of punishment but a mirror of life itself, where souls find what they need, not what they deserve. And maybe, just maybe, there's more kindness here than we imagine. I got back in the car and started the engine. The journey continued, and I knew this encounter was just one of many that would make me question the nature of this place. I accelerated down the dark road, popped open a beer, and put on one of my favorite cassettes to play on my stereo.